Hi, I'm Talissa.
And I'm Rachel, and this is Transatlantic Crime, a true crime podcast that covers stories from each side of the pond. Every week, we will both cover a separate story with a running theme.
Disclaimer, this podcast will contain swearing and details that some people may find offensive. If you are of a sensitive disposition, listener discretion is advised.
Welcome to Transatlantic
Crime. So close.
Hi, Talissa. How's it going?
Good, how are you?
I'm fine. It's been a really busy week.
Eventful week.
Eventful, busy, chaotic.
Yes, I was just going to tell you some very good news, which was obviously I live in Bristol and there's a statue in the middle of town and it's of a guy called Edward Colston who was a slave trader.
Oh.
Yeah, it's been there for like 300 years and there's been various petitions to take it down because there is no reason that man should have a statue in the middle of town.
Right.
And today they did a Black Lives Matter protest and they just fucking tore it down and threw it in the river.
Whoa.
I've put it on the Facebook and the Twitter, but if you want to Google it, yeah, there's videos of them pulling it down with a rope and dragging it to the river and dumping it in the river and cheering. It's so fucking cool.
Amazing. That's so cool.
It's really, really cool. I'm sad I wasn't there. It's really good news.
I was just talking to Will about the Boston Tea Party.
Yep.
When America had the Revolutionary War against the British.
Yes. I didn't want to mention it, but you know.
That's when they stormed onto a ship that was docked in Boston and they threw the tea in the ocean because they didn't want to pay taxes on it, or they thought the taxes from the king were ridiculous, and that worked for America, so I don't get why everyone's having problems.
Also, Boston Tea Party makes it sound so much more fun than just chucking tea in the river.
It really does.
Yeah, you know how to name an event. I'll give you that.
Yeah. But your protest reminded me of that. They threw it in the river.
Yeah. Do you know what? If some dick gets that out of the river and puts it back, I'll fucking pull it down myself. Don't you fucking dare.
What idiot would do that?
I don't think anyone would bother. I mean, they might have to get it out of the river because it's pretty big.
Contaminated or something.
It'll probably ruin the ship way, but yeah, it's fucking so cool. So yes, obviously we've had our Black Lives Matter episode come out, and then on episode 7, well, it was supposed to be episode 7, it's actually episode 8. We refer to it as episode 7 quite a lot, but just to let you know, this is now episode 9.
Is it?
Yes. Yeah, because we popped in an extra one.
Right.
Get to the murder.
Yeah.
Okay, so our theme this week is I Survived.
Yes.
Which is so... America has a whole show devoted to this. England doesn't have an I Survived show.
Really?
I don't think so. I've looked.
You should start it, Talissa.
I've found my gap in the market, but I don't think there are any. Well, someone is going to fucking correct me because people corrected me on how hot England got. So
oh, yeah.
I had 2 messages being it's 38 degrees. To be fair, I'm doing that voice, but I like both the people that message me. So I'm not taking the piss out of them, but it was funny.
I just think it's funny that of all the things we've said on the show, that's what someone wanted to write to you about.
They were both British men, both British white men. I do like them both, though. Paul and Adam, important. If you're listening, thanks for correcting me. I'm trying to be a better person, so thanks. Yeah, so cool. You're first this week, my love.
And I was trying to look for stories. Every week I try and look for stories that I haven't really heard about, or
you are such a rogue.
Or aren't really that well known, or there wasn't a TV show about it or something. I like doing research, so
I get that.
Going down rabbit holes.
Yeah.
But for this one, it was hard to do that, so I found something that I decided to go from the survivor's point of view to tell the story.
Yeah.
You will know it, and I'm not going to tell you what it is.
Okay.
But you'll know it.
Okay. I'm excited. You're sorry, it's going to be shit already. Rachel, give it a chance.
No, it's not going to be shit. I don't want to be this is the story of blah blah, because you'll know.
You're not telling me the title? Okay.
Yeah. And I also tried to keep it much shorter than the last one.
Me too. Me too.
Thank you, everyone who listened to that whole episode. If anyone did, please let us know. All right, let's get into it.
Okay.
On the night of November 19th, 1988, 30-year-old Henrietta Washington was walking to her friend Linda's house in South Los Angeles. She was on her way to get ready for a party. On her way, a flashy orange Ford Pinto pulled up. It stuck out to her because it was something you didn't normally see anymore in that area. It had rims and racing stripes and flares, so it really stuck out.
What a bell end.
I know.
Also, do you want to be a murderer and have an any more like conspicuous car?
Exactly.
Get a white van, you moron.
Yeah. What are you trying to prove?
It's got one of those horns that's like ba, 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 da, ba, 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 ba. Like the fucking ice cream van.
I would believe that for this guy.
Okay, go on.
The man inside was yelling to her to get her attention. She told him to get out and talk to her because she was like, "Why are you yelling? I can't even hear you. You might as well get out of the car and talk to me."
He'd have got a straight fuck off from me, but fine.
Yeah, she said that she kept ignoring him too. So
Okay.
she was like, "Look, dude, I'm not going to yell to you from your car. Get out and talk to me." So he did. He wanted to give her a ride to her party. She refused. He kept pressing, and he even asked her if he could join her at the party. She never met this guy.
Yeah, fuck off. Pretend to be deaf.
I'm sure every woman I know, myself included, has been called to from a car.
Oh, fuck yeah. I mean, I'm sorry, that makes me sound really arrogant.
It happens to me every day.
I can't walk down the street, Rachel. No, but it does happen.
Yeah, and sometimes you're in a neighborhood where you're like, "Oh, I know that guy. It's a friend of a friend, or I see him at the shop all the time," and another time it's like a random person.
Also,
So,
I think that back in the day, like, people would stop and go, "Excuse me, do you know where blah blah is?"
yes.
Ask you directions. And
Yeah.
that would happen when I was younger. But like, one, why are you asking a teenage girl or a young
Right.
girl where something is? Ask a man. And two, not because teenage girls don't know where things are, but to be less threatening. And two, now people have Google Maps. So if you
Yes.
pulled over and asked for directions, you'd be like, use your fucking phone.
Right.
So it just wouldn't work.
Exactly. But she must have thought that maybe he knew someone that she knew, or so she just kept talking.
Mm-hmm.
So he asked her if he could join her at the party. She was like, "No, I don't know you." She kept refusing, knowing the walk was short. She was like, just walk into her friend's house down the street. She was like, "I don't need a ride, and I don't know you. I'm not going to bring you to this party." She did say, "You could go to the party yourself if you want to. I don't care. Like, whatever."
I'm not physically bringing you in with me. I don't want them to
Yeah.
think that you're my friend.
Right. She was like, "He was short, so I wasn't really into him anyway."
He's not my type.
So he kept pressing. She kept refusing, knowing the walk was short and her friend's house was right around the corner. Finally, he said something that made her feel bad. He said, "That's what's wrong with you black women. People can't be nice to you." He was making her feel bad that he was being nice and she wasn't accepting it.
That makes the anger. I mean, I've been very angry this week, but like,
Yes.
fuck you. My anger is
Exactly.
just so. Anyway, sorry.
No.
People have had enough.
That's one of the reasons why I did this story too, because I just feel like it's LA, that there were some injustices that happened, and it's very relevant to what's going on.
As a woman, black or white, I don't owe you my fucking time. I don't owe you anything.
Yeah.
But this man is a murderer, so I'm assuming.
And he kept wearing her down, and then finally he made her feel bad, and so this made her take pause. She thought maybe she was being rough and too standoffish. She felt sorry for him. He was short and he was dressed nicely, so she was like, "All right, I'll get in the car with you." She was trying to be nice.
No, I know we're stealing this from My Favourite Murder, but pepper spray first, apologise later.
Fuck politeness.
Fuck politeness, that's another My Favourite Murder one, and they're all true. Be weird, be mean. Who cares if you hurt a guy's feelings? Fucking run.
Yeah, to me that's empowering. I'm allowed to be an asshole to you now.
Yeah.
Like, I'm never an asshole, but you're giving me a chance to be an asshole.
You're so nice. You're like, my time has come.
Yes.
Whereas I'm like, I'll be fucking horrible to anyone.
So she got in the car.
No.
I understand where she was coming from, but don't do that now, anybody. Please don't do that.
No.
They chatted and made a stop at what he said was his uncle's house to get some money.
Oh.
He made this turn down and she was like, that's not the way. And he was like, oh, I'm just going to stop here. So he went inside, came back out, and started driving. Henrietta realized the man had called her by another name, Brenda. She told him that wasn't her name. When she turned to hear his reply, everything went quiet. Henrietta felt the whole situation had changed. She immediately felt strange and instinctively reached for the door handle.
Yeah.
Don't touch that door, bitch, or I'll shoot you again, the man told her.
Fuck.
For the first time, she realized she had been shot. Oh, you shot me? She asked. According to Henrietta, he remained calm and menacing, but he kept calling her Brenda. She asked him why he shot her, and he said she'd been dogging him out.
What does that mean?
She was disrespecting him.
Is that like something they say in America?
In the 90s, yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. I guess here you would say you've been slagging me off.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But he kept calling her Brenda, so he might have been talking about this woman, Brenda.
Okay, so I was trying to think who it would be. I know it's not Ed Kemper, because he was really fucking tall, so that's the only person I've eradicated from my mind.
So at this point, she's like, I can't open the door, so she starts talking to him. She tried to convince him to take her to the hospital, even suggesting he could drop her off a block away and she would walk in. She was like, you don't have to show your face there, just drop me off.
She is so nice.
She mentioned her children, hoping he would relate in some way. She kept avoiding looking down to see where she had been shot.
Do you know what? Sometimes that's for the best. Kids only cry when they see their cut.
Exactly. It is kind of like an instinctive thing, because once you see blood, you just start freaking out.
Definitely. Yeah. I remember once when I was working at the commercial tavern, my boss, Maria, was like, do not put glass in the bin bags. I was like, yeah, okay. Obviously, I put broken glass in the bin bag. What else would I be doing with it? And at the end of the night, I carried the bin bag and it was so heavy that I like swung it. And I thought, oh, did that hit my leg? Like I didn't even know. And I looked down and there was blood everywhere and it had like cut basically halfway through my calf.
Oh my gosh.
It was so bad. I had to cut my jeans because I couldn't take them off.
No.
It was like skinny jean time.
So, like, cut through your jeans?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
I was wearing black jeans and it cut right through them. I've got a massive scar. I'll put a picture on Instagram if anyone's interested. It was only when I looked at it and then properly shit myself. And then I went to A&E and I had a tetanus. I was like, ow. And the woman was like, oh, so you haven't had kids. And I was like, fuck you, bitch. She was like laughing at me. I was like, I know it's been a long night, but come on.
So she was basically like, oh, this is nothing. Wait till you have kids?
Yeah.
Jeez.
But to be fair, I was 20, I was probably about 23. So I was like a 23-year-old little bitch. So whatever.
Mine's kind of gross.
That was pretty gross. So go on.
Blood is gross. Which is why we talk about it every week, obviously.
Oh my God, I'm so sorry to interrupt you again, but like, me and Vince were talking, my boyfriend who I mention all the time, Vince was telling me about, like we were talking about Alan Turing, the guy who did the Enigma machine in the World War. He was saying, you know, like Alan Turing, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, yeah, didn't they chemically castrate him and then he killed himself? He was like, why do you have to ruin everything?
That's where our minds go. Like,
yeah.
Sorry.
Crime.
Yeah, that's why we're here. No, I think I was about 12, and in the house I grew up in, we had huge pine trees, and you could kind of like go under them and you would be completely
in
hidden.
A tree.
Yeah, just like a line of pine trees up on the side of the yard. And I was walking through playing or whatever, and I was wearing flip-flops.
Yeah.
And I looked down and I'm like, oh, there's a piece of wood stuck to my flip-flops.
Oh, God.
And I pull the wood off my shoe, and I'm like, oh, there's a nail sticking out, and there's blood on it.
Fucking hell, you never told me that.
Yeah, and I did exactly what you do when you're a kid, and you look at the blood, and then you look at your cut, and I just started freaking out.
I would now.
Yes. But it was like, I didn't feel it at first. I was kind of like, oh,
It's
there's a
so
piece of
weird.
wood. Yeah. And then I looked down and obviously I started feeling it and there's blood everywhere and I ran inside to my mom and
She just pulled it out, wiped it with a bit of wet cloth, and went, bye bye now.
yeah, pretty much.
She's like, get out of the kitchen, I'm cooking.
Yeah, probably.
What did happen? Do you know?
I had already pulled the nail out, so I just had a
Wow.
hole in my foot and went inside and my mom cleaned it up. I probably should have gotten a tetanus shot, but
100%, Rachel.
I didn't.
But in America, that costs money, so no thanks.
Yeah, I knew at the time what a tetanus shot was, and I think my mom was like, "You might have to get a tetanus shot," and I was like, "No, no."
No more.
Yeah.
Oh my god. Right, so she's been shot.
Obviously, our injuries are no equation to that, but we
I'm
both
just saying.
understand not noticing at first or not feeling
Wanting
the
to
pain
know.
straight away.
Yeah.
Okay, so she didn't look down, but once she did, she noticed blood on her shirt and on her jacket.
Yeah.
He didn't take her to the hospital, and she began to fade in and out of consciousness.
No.
At one point, she woke up, and this is where it starts getting rough. Yeah, he shot her, but why?
Yeah.
So she's fading in and out of consciousness. At one point, she wakes up, and he's on top of her.
Oh, fuck you.
She tried to push him off, but she faded out. She woke up again, and she woke up to a camera flash. He took a picture
What?
of her.
Oh my god. I'm trying to think. Okay, I think I might know who it is.
She realized he had taken a Polaroid picture of her. So she was falling in and out of consciousness again. And I hate this part, but she woke up again and his face was between her legs.
What's he getting out of that? Obviously,
Yeah.
he's fucking gross, but like, she's basically nearly dead. Like, what the fuck?
Yes. She's not conscious. She's got blood all over. Is this really? Yeah.
It's hard to try and go into the mind of people that enjoy that sort of thing.
Every time she woke up, she would fight him off.
Good for her.
Yeah. She struggled to push him away. Finally, she reached for the passenger door. The car was moving, and as the door opened, he pushed her out. So it kind of happened at the same time where she reached for the door and he pushed her at the same time.
I think I'd rather be like, I'd take my chances on the road rather than be in a car with that fucking psycho.
Yeah, that's what they say too. Like, once you're in the car, your chances of surviving go way down.
Yeah, never get in the car.
Yeah, if anyone ever grabs you and starts pulling you into their car, like, just fight for your life.
I got obsessed with the whole Israel Keys thing.
Yeah,
And
me too.
there's that really great podcast called True Crime Bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and Josh Hallmark liked one of our tweets on Twitter and I nearly pissed myself with excitement.
Aww.
He's the host of the show. But yeah, he was saying that he was speaking to a policeman, policewoman, I can't remember. They were basically saying, like, you know, Samantha Koenig that he abducted from the coffee stand.
Yes.
There was a small chance between the time when he got her out of the coffee stand and he got her in his car. If she had escaped then, she might have made it. Because, yeah, once they've got you in a car, you're just completely fucking trapped.
When they interviewed Israel Keys, he said that she fought him.
Yeah, and she tried to get away. There were people in the parking lot, but I think he said, if you do or say anything, I'm just going to shoot you. So she just was like, fuck, okay. And then got in the car, which was obviously the end, which was so shit. If you want to be really bummed out, listen to that fucking Israel Keys podcast. It's absolutely horrible.
He does his research. He did a really good job.
Oh, it's amazing. And now he's doing one on Kelly Cochran.
Yes.
Who may be one of America's like female serial killers.
Yeah, but she's such a big liar.
She is, but he does some very good putting together of facts stuff, like when she murders somebody, she would go off Facebook for a while. Obviously, they can't prove all of them and it's an ongoing case, but he makes some really good points. It's still not over and I think I have a few more to listen to.
Yeah. I stopped listening to it so that I could binge on it when it was all ready, when everything was up.
Much prefer that, yeah, you're right. Okay.
All right, so when she was struggling and stuff, she noticed that the car had stopped, but obviously when she escaped, the car was moving again. So he pushed her out. She lands on the ground. It's pitch black outside by this time.
Does she know where she is?
No. Henrietta laid on the street for an indefinite amount of time. It was dark and she didn't know where she was, and it was too dark for anyone to see her laying there. She kept talking to herself, like trying to
Yeah.
get herself to get up. She started pushing herself to move and got up onto the curb. She started feeling for parked cars, leaning on them to just start walking
Yeah.
forward. She aimed to move toward a main street where she could hear cars and see lights, and she was still fading in and out of consciousness. She made her way toward her friend Linda's house. She figured out where she was, and she wasn't that far, so she walked all the way to Linda's house.
Oh my God, she's such a trooper.
Yeah, I don't know how far that was. I tried to find out, but I'll mention the documentary because I don't want to mention the documentary because that'll give away who it
This is
was.
such a long, it's such a long con, Rach. You're making me wait.
Once she got to Linda's house, she's pounding on the door, but no one was home. Linda and her husband had gone to the party that they were getting ready for.
Fucking Linda, you've got one job, and that's be there, please.
When no one answered the door, she laid to wait on Linda's porch. When finally her friend arrived home, and she said Linda got home, Linda and her husband got out of their car and saw Henrietta. And we're like, what the heck? You were supposed to go to the party with us. And
Oh, hey!
yeah, exactly. As soon as she saw Henrietta, she's like, I've been shot. And Linda was like, oh my God. She started freaking out. She started screaming. People came out of their houses. Linda was freaking out, but she called 911.
Thank God.
Imagine if she
Someone
didn't.
did.
She's just like, ah! And doesn't do anything.
Screaming into the abyss because she's so hammered. Fuck all help when you did arrive.
Yeah. So paramedics arrived. Henrietta was still conscious and she remembers being brought to the hospital. They couldn't give her anything because the bullet was in her chest and they said it was still traveling.
What?
Yeah, it was still kind of moving in her body, so they couldn't give her anything. They began to work on her and that's when she passed out.
I'd just be like, fucking give me all the morphine you have.
Yeah, that's how she remembered it. So I'm sure when she passed out is probably when they gave her
A
something.
sedative, yeah.
Henrietta stayed for 3 weeks in the hospital, recovering from major surgery on the right side of her body and above the center of her chest. It took Henrietta a full year to recover. Law enforcement interviewed her twice while she was in the hospital. And then when she got out of the hospital, then she took the cops to where she thought it happened.
But that's so long.
Yeah.
Especially in 1988. I know it's a pretty recognizable car, but that's pretty much all she's got, right? Well, we'll see.
Yeah. It's LA, and the cops, they didn't really take the black community seriously. So this was happening in South LA. That might be another clue for you.
Oh, I think I know. Oh, no. He was more of a strangler. No, okay, go on.
You might be right. All right, let's get into the man.
Yeah.
Lonnie David Franklin Jr. was born on August 30th, 1952. Didn't want to include his birthday, but I am, just to say how old he was. He was early 30s when he attacked Henrietta.
I always think this. It's not like I'm celebrating. It's not like, 2 weeks to your birthday.
Exactly. And I wanted to do that for Henrietta as well, but I couldn't find her birthday.
Okay.
So 1952 happened in 1988, so he was in his early 30s. He grew up in South Central Los Angeles. He was given a dishonorable discharge from the United States Army in 1975 after having been released from prison for his conviction of gang raping a 17-year-old girl in Stuttgart, West Germany, where he was based.
Fuck.
Franklin and 2 other servicemen stationed in Stuttgart stopped to ask directions from a teen. That's what we were just talking about.
Yeah.
Then offered her a ride home. When she accepted, they put a knife to her throat, drove her to a field, and repeatedly raped her. She was able to feign interest in Franklin and asked for his phone number, by which police identified him.
That is so clever.
She also remembers having her picture taken during the incident.
Okay, who was a picture taker? South LA picture taker.
I'm about to tell you in the next sentence.
This is killing me.
Franklin is better known as his serial murdering alias, the Grim Sleeper.
Yes, I was going to say that. Yes, okay.
A name coined by LA Weekly in 2008 after a victim was linked to a string of murders that occurred in the 1980s.
I didn't know that he was in the army and that he had been dismissed for gang rape. Like, I didn't know that bit.
I didn't know that either.
He's even worse than I thought he was.
Yes. And there's a really good documentary called The Grim Sleeper where they interview Henrietta. It's a very good, harrowing documentary.
Is it Vice?
Have you seen it?
If it's Vice, I think I've seen it.
I don't think it's Vice, but it's HBO.
Yeah. Now TV, we have a lot of HBO shows on. But
Okay.
I'm almost 100% sure I've watched it because I've watched a lot of stuff about him because I think it came out fairly recently and it was like a series, like not just like an hour-long special or something. And
Yeah.
I quite like a good binge of a series, so I definitely, and if it's on Now TV and it's about murder, I've watched it, so yes.
It's possible he's murdered as many as 25 women, which would make him one of the most prolific American killers. He had allegedly been on a killing spree of 7 young black women from 1985 to 1988. 3 more victims were found in the 2000s. The supposed pause in the murders inspired the nickname the Grim Sleeper. He's known to have killed a string of women in the 80s, and then he didn't do it again, supposedly, until the 2000s.
Yeah, because that's like a change of MO, right? Because he didn't shoot people before. Because I thought his only like method of killing was strangling people, or did he threaten them with guns as well and shoot them?
Yeah, he did.
Okay, I need to rewatch this
He would shoot
documentary.
them and he would strangle them.
Okay.
Franklin avoided suspicion for decades, working as a city trash collector and pumping gas for Los Angeles police before collecting a pension because of a work injury.
He's like close to the police. That's another bit of serial killer bingo.
Yeah.
Been in the army
Mhm.
and like makes himself close with the police / tries to be person of authority.
Yeah.
That's another square on the bingo card, isn't it?
We should make a transatlantic crime bingo for our Patreon followers.
Yes. Oh my God, yes.
Yeah. Follow us on Patreon.
Yes. And we will make a bingo card. Yeah. And do a live bingo maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
We'll make it work.
When we can all be together again in places, we'll have a live event.
God, I can't wait.
Yeah. So he avoided suspicion because he pumped the gas for LAPD. He also was, in his neighborhood, was known to just be out in his lawn, and he would fix cars and chat with neighbors, and he was also married and had kids.
Really? I didn't know that. Have I seen this documentary? Because I don't think I have now.
Maybe not.
I thought he was a bit of a loner, but basically everybody liked him.
No, he was, he chatted to people. He was just a neighborhood guy that you wouldn't think twice.
Neighborhood guy.
His gunshot and strangled victims were found dumped in seedy alleys, wrapped in carpets, or hidden under discarded mattresses. He also aimed for sex workers, runaways, just people that, it's sad to say, weren't really noticed when they were gone.
Yeah, because they were quite transient anyway.
Yeah.
Didn't stay in touch with their family.
Right. And the LAPD would take less seriously.
Yeah, they'll be like, oh, they're probably dead in a ditch somewhere because it's their own fault, which is completely unfair, but it happens all the time.
The killings were so rampant that the Black Coalition Fighting Black Serial Murders was formed in 1989 in protest of the LAPD's lack of policing in areas where the murders occurred. They formed the Black Coalition Fighting Black Serial Murders a year after that had happened to Henrietta. So things had been happening for about 4 years, and the cops weren't doing anything.
Yeah, it's much like the Native American people that you were saying about in our first podcast about marginalized people. You were saying that they had their own cop force because they basically needed it because white cops and, well, cops that were like, American, like didn't care or like didn't make as much effort for those people.
They were kind of like, that's your problem, you deal with it.
So they had to make their own one. They had to do their own thing.
The coalition felt it was irresponsible and racially motivated that information about the murders and the profile were not released in order to better protect Black women in South Central LA.
Yeah.
Even with the identity of the killer ravaging poor Black neighborhoods still unknown, the LAPD did not alert communities of possible danger or assemble a special task force to solve the Grim Sleeper murders after the 2 new bodies were discovered in 2002 and 2003. So from the 80s till 2003, they basically did nothing.
That's crazy.
Finally, after the body of Janisha Lavette Peters was found in a dumpster in 2007, the LAPD created a task force to close cold cases.
Yes, please. I know the LA police force must be busy as fuck, but are they also kind of famously a little bit corrupt?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they're famously a bit naughty, aren't they? To say the least.
Yes, and all you have to do is go to 1992 of the video of them beating Rodney King. That's a very obvious one. So that happened in between this. So it's like they basically there were a lot of racist people, and they treated black people badly or they didn't give a shit.
Well, it's like that racist cop basically nearly fucked the whole OJ case because they had recordings of him saying racist slurs, and it's like, how can we trust you? Even though OJ, I mean, personally, I'm speaking for myself, is guilty as fuck. The fact that the LA police were intrinsically racist at that time meant he had a very good chance of getting off.
Exactly.
Yeah, they were like famously racist, and even people over here knew that, I think, in the UK.
Yeah. So, 20 years go by. Franklin was connected to the crimes after the task force, re-examining the old cases, discovered that genetic evidence on one of the victims was similar to Franklin's son's DNA. Franklin's son was arrested prior for something, so his DNA was already in the database. So they knew that somebody very closely related to the son had the similar DNA to a bunch of the cold cases.
I love DNA. I might get a t-shirt being like, I heart DNA.
Would you do that though? Like, have you sent your DNA off to find out what you are, or?
No, but I'm going to 100% because my nan was adopted. No, she wasn't adopted. She was put in a really horrible children's home.
Right.
that makes her life sound nicer than it was. She was put in a really horrible children's home, and me and my mum found a letter that was sent to my nan from her sister saying, your dad isn't who you think it is.
Oh.
So it's like, it was going to blow this case wide open. So I'm well up for it. Plus, I haven't done anything wrong. And if you have done something wrong, stop it.
Yeah. And if your relatives have, then too bad for them.
Yeah, go to prison. I'm always of the opinion that people that go, oh, I don't want my DNA on the database. I'm like, why? What are you going to do?
Also, like,
are you going to do
isn't already. I'll probably do it, yeah.
I think, honestly, though, I've looked into it. I think I'm pretty boring. So all my dad's side are from the Midlands of England, and then all my mum's side are from Wales, I think. Unless this mystery father of my nan is an exotic person, I'm pretty sure it's boring as fuck. I think it's good because it might help people catch a rapist or a criminal or a murderer. So I'm well up for it.
Definitely. Yeah. I know on the Murder Squad, the latest episode that I listened to, they were telling people to do that because it is a huge help.
Yes. The more information they have, the more connections they can make, the more cold cases they can shut. So
exactly.
Good news. I think we should do it.
So Franklin's own DNA was collected by a detective posing as a busboy.
Yes.
And when Franklin went to a restaurant, he took his pizza crusts and discarded utensils. Franklin was at a birthday party, so he was like, I'll take those.
Yep.
On July 7th, 2010, Franklin was arrested. So 3 years after they found the body of Janisha, I hope I'm saying her name right.
It sounds a bit like my name and everyone says that wrong. So I feel her pain.
They arrested him in 2010. Obviously, they went to his house. In his house, police found a gun used in killings and Polaroids of some victims. All in all, finding over 1,000 photos and several hundred hours of video in his home.
They always do this. They always take photos. They have to have a souvenir. It's evidence.
And I believe in the documentary as well, they talked to a woman, and I'm not 100% sure, but she was a sex worker, and she had described being at that house, and it was like if you went in that house, you would think it was a murder house. There were rooms that were dark and smelled weird.
Hellhole.
Exactly.
Much like last week, that Anthony guy who just wrote shit on his walls and had like 70 porn videos.
Yeah, 4 TVs.
You walk in and you just go, nope.
They also found the picture of Henrietta,
Yeah.
the one that he took of her in the car, and she was bleeding, she was a little exposed.
Yeah.
So clearly,
Bang to rights.
yeah. Henrietta Washington is the only known survivor of Franklin's crimes.
That's incredible.
Yeah, and the woman whose bullet wounds were matching with those in the cold cases. So obviously they had the bullet from when she got shot, and they matched that up to the other cold cases.
Wow. I love
Which I
that.
feel like if they were doing their job in 1988 and said, oh, here's a bullet that we got in your chest, let's match it up to maybe what other bullets we've found, they probably would have been closer at that time.
Yeah, but they didn't give no shits. Like,
yeah.
I'm so glad I love a cold case as well. Do you ever go on YouTube and watch like 5 cold cases that have been solved?
Yes.
Oh, I fucking love it. That's
yes.
my little treat before bed sometimes.
Yeah. There's one that I'll probably do later on at some point, but there's a cold case in Minnesota that's connected to people that I know.
Wow. We were saying hometown murders has got to be one of ours. Like we'll have to do a hometown murder each.
Yeah.
So you can do Minnesota and I can do Bristol.
Yeah.
There's nothing in Andover. I've already looked.
Really? Oh, you're all so nice.
And well, oh my God, actually, there is one, and it's a guy, and he kicked his wife to death. But that happened so recently, like literally within the last year, that I couldn't do it. I don't think because there's just not enough information, and I basically already told you what happened just now.
The end.
That is the end, and he's in prison, thank God. But loads of my friends knew him. My brother knew him. Yeah, like everyone knew him, and everyone knew her as well. And they were like, oh yeah, they were a really fiery couple. That's what happens to fiery couples. Don't be in a fiery relationship.
Chill out.
Yeah.
All right. The Los Angeles County District Attorney's Office charged Franklin with 10 counts of murder, 1 count of attempted murder, and special circumstances allegations of multiple murders in the case. After several delays, the trial opened on February 16th, 2016. So he was arrested in 2010, and they kept finding out new things, and he also caused delays as well. He was just one of those shitty...
appeals, swap my lawyers. Yeah.
As one of the rare survivors of the Grim Sleeper serial killer, Henrietta's testimony helped prove the case that sent Lonnie Franklin Jr. to death row.
Good.
Yeah, she went up there and she was totally confident. She did a great job.
I like the sound of this girl as well.
So do I. And by this time she was in her 50s. So she was like 30 when it happened to her, and... You know, imagine 20 years later trying to testify something really traumatic that happened to you that you probably wanted to put behind you.
Yeah, I'd still be fucking mad though. So.
Oh, yeah, totally.
But yes, I get what you mean. It is traumatic to relive stuff like that. Some people just want to forget, and you can understand why.
Yeah. The jury convicted Franklin on all counts on May 5th, 2016. On June 6th, 2016, the jury rendered a verdict of death. On August 10th, the Superior Court sentenced Franklin on each count, naming the individual victims. I'm going to name them.
Okay, so he got a death sentence for everybody, basically.
Yes.
Where was this again? This is California. You like a death sentence in California?
I guess so.
You're not shy of a death sentence.
People think that California is pretty liberal, but LA is, and San Francisco. California is a big state. There's a lot of more...
The death penalty. And guns and stuff.
Yeah. So the victims were Deborah Renette Jackson. He killed her in 1985. Henrietta Wright. He killed her in 1986. Thomas Sylvester Steele, the only guy, 1986. The only known guy.
Yeah, I suppose.
Barbara Ware, 1987. Bernita Sparks, 1987. He had a run in 1987 for sure.
Big year.
Mary Catherine Lowe, 1987. Latricia Jefferson, 1988. Alicia Alexander, 1988.
Whoa.
And then after Alicia was Henrietta, and she survived.
Yeah.
Princess Cheyenne Berthomew, 2002. So 1988, Henrietta survived, and then he supposedly stopped for a while.
He probably shit himself and thought, I'm gonna get caught for this.
Yeah, probably. And then Valerie McCorvey, 2003, and then Janisha Peters in 2007.
Thing is, when you read out all names like that, you think on your hand, like, list them, like, and you think of that many people stood in a room with you and
Yeah.
all of them being fucking murdered.
Yeah.
And it's just like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Think of all their families or their children or everyone they ever spoke to, like.
And all of them being around our age too, except for two of them. Alicia was 18 and Princess was 15, but everyone else was between, 20s to 30s.
Yeah.
So just imagine being at a party and how many of those 12 people, all your age, having a good time, and they're
killed
dead
by some piece of shit. Yeah.
So despite his conviction, some details remain unclear, like the question of whether he was truly sleeping, air quotes, during the alleged downtime, or why it took the LAPD nearly 25 years to arrest the person responsible for the deaths of at least 10 victims.
Yeah.
On March 28th, 2020, so only a couple of months ago, Franklin was found unresponsive in his cell at San Quentin, and he was pronounced dead.
See ya, cunt.
His cause of death is pending the results of an autopsy. However, there were no signs of trauma.
So they're thinking heart attack, not suicide.
Probably. On the day Henrietta Washington was shot and left for dead 3 decades ago, she looked her assailant in the eye and she told him that she would haunt him if she died.
Yes, girl.
Henrietta survived, but she still got her revenge. And
she
that's
fucking
the story
did. Yeah.
of Henrietta Washington
Washington
and the Grim Sleeper.
I want to clap you. That was so good, but it's gonna be sound awful on a fucking mic in my shitty little bedroom. But yes, that was so good, Rachel. Thing is, I survived.
Thank you.
I survived is so uplifting, and this is why we did it after the body parts one, because that was rough.
It was. There's so much that you can find out about the Grim Sleeper, but I really wanted to just take it from Henrietta's point of view because she did survive it and she is a fighter and she got her revenge.
And she's still alive, right?
She is still alive.
Yes. So I'm going to put a picture up of her on our social media. Definitely. We'll put the survivors up rather than the piece of shit murderers.
Yeah.
Okay. So my story this week is, again, it's quite from the point of the survivor. I don't think you're going to know this guy. He's not globally famous.
Okay.
Which is kind of good because sometimes, but she's very famous. It's like the case.
Oh.
Whenever you Google it, it never really mentions his name. It's always the case of Stephanie Slater, which is the girl I'm going to talk about.
Okay.
Which
Sounds
is really
familiar.
Does it? So also Stephanie Slater is a character in EastEnders, so make sure you're not thinking of her.
That's probably what I'm thinking of.
Because it's not her.
It's like, I know that name.
Yes, you do know that name, but it's from a very shit soap, and that's not her. Okay, I'll crack on. On Wednesday, the 22nd of January, 1992, 25-year-old Stephanie Slater had been working at Birmingham estate agent Shipways for just 6 weeks. So on this day, she had an appointment in the diary, and it was arranged by letter. So this was unusual because what would usually happen is someone calls up and says, I want to see this house, and then you have their number. So
right.
you can call them back and then make sure that they still want to see the house on that day. There's no mobiles because it's 1992, unless it's a brick mobile. So she can't contact the person, but she has to go to the house and just see if they're there. So she said to her colleague, I'll tell you what, I'll do this appointment because he hasn't confirmed. So he probably won't even show up. So you go on that evaluation, which was more important because that was confirmed and could make them some money. So she's basically taking one for the team. So she goes to the viewing, which is a 2-minute drive away from her offices on Turnberry Road. And she sees a man waiting outside the property, and he's called Mr. Southall. So she says, Mr. Southall, and he says yes. And so she apologized for being a little bit late, and he didn't reply, which she thought was a bit strange. So they went inside, and Stephanie had done like quite a few viewings in her time there, and she could just get the impression that he just wasn't really interested. Like he was a bit of a time waster. So she just waited in another bedroom, and she was quite keen to get back to the office.
She probably felt a vibe then.
Yeah, and this is the thing, like you feel something in your gut, but you just ignore it and you're like, fuck it, I'll just wait it out. Maybe it'll be
Yeah, I'll do
okay.
my job. I'll keep walking.
And if you're a estate agent, you can't go, I got a funny feeling, so I abandoned it. Like
Yeah,
it's your job. So you basically
right,
just have to. I think a lot of laws have changed, by the way, since this
right.
incident.
That's
So
good.
yes, definitely. So yeah, they're inside and they're looking around and she can hear him shout to her from the bathroom, are the windows double glazed in this house? And she was like, I think the windows in the bathroom are double glazed, but not the rest of the house, which is kind of weird. So she wasn't sure, but so he basically called her in here and said, "Oh, come in here. I want you to tell me what this thing is on the wall." She walked over to what he pointed at, meaning that she had her back to him, and said, "It's just a hook that you hang your towel on, or whatever." So he obviously just wanted her back to him,
Yeah,
and I think he was asking if it is double glazed, so if any shouting was going on, no one would hear.
right.
Because again, when she said it's just a towel hook, he didn't answer, which was really starting to give her the creeps. And then because she's in this really good documentary about it, and she's in the documentary and she tells her story from her point of view. And she said, as I turned around, he suddenly changed. He grew bigger and was flying at me with a contorted face. It took a few seconds for my brain to realize that this was dangerous. She could just see flashes of silver in his hand and realized that he'd been holding a crowbar and a knife in his jacket and when he was now coming at her with them.
What?
Yeah, so
Nightmare.
literally a nightmare. So she put up a huge fight and she was grabbing at the weapons. And then during the struggle, she managed to get the crowbar off him, and she grabbed the knife, but he pulled it out of her hand. And you know, like when you pull a knife out of someone's hand and it like cuts their hand.
Yeah.
So he slit her entire palm. So now things are getting really slippy and messy. And she had various wounds, and then part of her hair was cut off because he was just going fucking crazy at her with the knife slashing at her. And he was shouting at her to
Yeah.
stop and just let go.
How old was she?
Event 25, she is at this point.
Oh, wow.
He basically overpowers her in the end and he pushes her into the bath and like jumps on top of her and he holds the knife to her throat and he said that he'd kill her if she kept screaming. So she stopped. After this, he forced her down the stairs and tied a noose around her neck. And she thought he was just going to rape her initially, but now she thought he was going to hang her, like from somewhere in the house. But then she realized that it's basically like a dog leash, like he's leading her with it.
Oh,
So she was staring at the front door that was left open because that was the protocol. When you're showing someone around a potential house, you'd leave the door open
yeah.
for safety, which did fuck all clearly. Like, take more than one person with you. She started talking to him very loudly in the hope that someone would hear her, but it was a quiet street and no one walked past.
Mm.
So he forces her at knife point to the back seat of his car and he blindfolds her. It turns out that he gave a fake name for the viewing. So he said his name was Mr. Southall, I think, but actually his real name is Mr. Michael Sands. So he was born on the 11th of August 1941. Again, not celebrating his birthday, fuck you.
Yeah.
And which makes him, what does that make him? A Leo. They're not usually murderers, are they? We were talking about it, and it's Virgos who are murderers.
There's a lot
Geminis,
of Virgos.
Geminis, Capricorns, watch out. So he grew up in Yorkshire, which is northern England. He joined the Merchant Navy at the age of 20, which again, I think is a bit of serial killer bingo.
Yep.
After 3 years, he returned to his hometown and became a central heating engineer, and then he set up his own company. In 1976, however, he turned to crime and he was imprisoned for auto theft and for making a false insurance claim. While in prison, he was diagnosed with cancer, which led to the amputation of one of his legs. He's got one leg. After his release, he was forced to sell his business and he took a job for Black & Decker. You have that in America, don't you?
I believe so, yeah.
Black &
There's like a
Decker's
tool company and like
Power Tools. Yeah. So he later started his own business in the 1980s selling power tools. So he obviously likes to be his own boss. He was married 3 times. That annoys me. he
that's a
had
sign.
Yeah, he had 2 sons by his first wife, but the marriage broke down, probably because he's a fucking maniac. Shortly before he was sent to prison. His second marriage also ended in divorce, and at the time of his arrest, he lived with his third wife. So
Okay.
back to Stephanie. So she's in the back of his car, and he drives her over 70 miles to Newark-on-Trent, which is a market town in Nottinghamshire. So that's in the Midlands. So I think he's basically gone from like London to the Midlands, which is a very long drive. And where he lives, he owns a workshop where he serves members of the public during the power tool business, and he lives behind that with his wife.
Okay.
So he's taken a hostage, basically, to his house, his workshop near his house that he lived in with his wife, which is just madness.
That's crazy.
Yeah, but again, Israel Keys did that. He took Samantha Keys to his shed,
Oh
and
yeah.
his fucking girlfriend and his daughter were in the house. Never let your man have a shed. God knows what they're doing in there
You can use the other room in the house.
that
Just
I
go in
can
there.
access.
Yeah. I can hear what's going on.
There should be no locks on any rooms that you're in alone. So, as this is happening, because it's all in the same day, her colleagues are starting to become concerned that she's been gone a long time. So, as they
Yeah.
went to another viewing, Kevin and Jane, who are her colleagues, Kevin plays a role later, drove past the house and they saw Stephanie's car outside empty. And they put it down to the fact that it may just be a long viewing. Something doesn't seem right. Pop in the house.
Yeah.
Just pop in.
Don't just drive by. The
They
door's wide open.
they
Or
just
maybe it wasn't.
I don't know if he shut the door as he left, but they just drove the fuck by, which I'm not cool with. As Michael Sams is driving Stephanie to his house, he stops somewhere quiet away from traffic and near a payphone. Again, it's the 90s. Payphones work and they aren't just urinals. He sits her up and says, "No screaming, I have a knife. I don't know if you know, but you have been kidnapped."
No shit, Sherlock.
Also, you're in the shit. What do you think? You're in the shittest film ever. Such a loser, this guy. Then he said, "I'm going to be asking your place of work for £175,000. I've written a ransom note and I want you to read it into this dictaphone, and then I'm going to play it down the phone to your boss." She does this.
This is why everyone should learn another language so that
Yeah.
if something like this happens, then speak in another language if you can
It's a good
to
idea.
someone.
It's a good idea. Code, Pig Latin.
I know, that's very random.
It's a survival technique that I'm definitely open to. Yeah, so Kevin basically gets this call from a payphone to the office, and he didn't know what to do. So in the call, she says, "Whatever you do, don't call the police or I will be killed." So he's in a bit of a pickle. So he calls his boss. He's like, "This is fucking way above my pay grade. Like, I am
Yeah.
delegating upwards."
I'm just the intern.
He's like, "I don't know what to do." So he calls.
It's only my second week here. What am I supposed to do?
He's like, "Right, apparently Stephanie's been kidnapped. What the fuck?"
Is this a normal thing that happens every week?
Yeah, so his boss calls the police immediately. Well done. His boss also seems like, Kevin's boss seems like a fucking absolute, like, murderino, because he calls,
nice.
yeah, he calls the police immediately and he tells them that they need to turn up in an unmarked car or not in uniform because the kidnapper could be watching.
This guy knows what he's talking about.
This guy has watched fucking some Bruce Willis films. I'm so into it. So anyway, the police take this seriously and they do arrive in plain clothes and a plain car, and they do a search of the property that Stephanie disappeared from, and they can see there's been a struggle in the bathroom with a lot of blood. So police decide they need to inform Stephanie's parents because they may get a call and they want to set up recording devices. So after the recorded message is played down the phone, Stephanie's kidnapper pulls in again in a lay-by and, again, very British, offers her a ham sandwich and a cup of tea. He's obviously pulled into like a fucking cafe because he hasn't got a kettle in his car. So
What?
she's like, "No thanks."
She's like,
Not-
can I clean up some of this blood from my hand first before I eat a ham sandwich?
Not from you. Anyway, she refuses. I guess, like, I don't know. I'm pretty hangry, so even if someone was like ham sandwich, I'd be like, let me sniff it first, but I definitely want it.
I'd never refuse a ham sandwich.
I'd be starving from stress. At 6 p.m., they pull into their final destination, and Sam's warned Stephanie not to scream, not that anyone is going to hear you. She said she was still blindfolded, but she could feel gravel under her feet, and she heard a very large garage door open. So this was basically her being led inside the workshop, and then she was tied to a chair. This is where it gets super creepy.
Okay.
So strap in.
I'm ready.
She said he went behind her and was touching her hair and putting his hands through it. And he told her to take her clothes off and said that he had clothes for her to wear. And she said on the documentary, no fucking way, you're not undressing me. She was like, you're not taking my modesty as well. And she flatly refused. And this made him really angry. And he was walking around the chair, and then he suddenly, because she's still blindfolded, so he's just like psyching her out. So he walks around the chair and he suddenly whispers in her ear, remember Susie Lamplugh? Basically, Susie Lamplugh was somebody I was going to cover in the Unsolved one. She's an estate agent who went to a viewing and then just disappeared in 1986. Yeah, she was also...
And that's still unsolved?
It's still unsolved, but they pretty much know who did it. Like,
is it this guy?
No, but at the time they didn't know that. So he's basically just massively shitting her up. So after threatening her again with a knife, she finally just gave in and undressed. And he pushed her onto an old mattress, again by knife point, and raped her. And she said during the rape, he was biting all over her face, neck, and shoulders. And she said she purposely made no noise because she didn't want him to enjoy it. He got off her in silence and wiped her down with a damp cloth. He gave her men's clothes to wear and said, don't worry, that won't happen again.
What? So, oh, cheers, thanks.
Oh, all right then. Well, I think he's just one of these piece of shit people that's like, does something horrible and then like has
offers
a bit of
ham sandwich.
Yeah, has a savior complex kind of thing. She said in the documentary, the rape changed me completely because I wasn't frightened anymore, because I felt so dead inside, and as a woman, I felt he had done everything he could do to me now to hurt me. There's nothing else. I felt indestructible because I really didn't care anymore. So Stephanie's attacker had constructed a makeshift coffin inside a bin. Like, you know, those big long wheelie bins that we have in England? They're really tall. They're like tall enough to fit a person in. So he'd constructed one of those into a coffin, indicating that he had prepared and calculated his attack. And he said to her, I hope you're not claustrophobic. And she just shrugged her shoulders. And he said, good, because you're going in a box.
Where's his wife at this time?
Well, it's like fucking Fritzl. It's like she apparently didn't know any of this shit was going on.
Yeah.
Maybe he's just one of these really crazy husbands that's like, don't you fucking dare come in my warehouse or I'm going to go mad. So she just leaves him in there, like...
Yeah. Or maybe she's like, just go to your warehouse. I don't
want you in... Yeah.
I can't deal with you right now. Please just go.
Yeah, so... yeah, his wife is in the house the whole time. I mean, she might be on holiday, I don't know. Like, Stephanie doesn't know either. There's no real way of knowing, but she does live in the house behind. So he tells her that she has to get into a sleeping bag. She gets in halfway and she says, I can't, it's too tight. And he said, I got in there earlier, so you have to. So she forces herself into the bag and her legs start to go numb, like immediately. And he also tells her that he set up boulders above her head, balanced on a bar, and if she tries to escape, they will fall on her head and knock her out. Her hands were pulled up above her head and handcuffed to the metal bar across the top of the bin. So she's basically in like a corkscrew position and her back is in agony. And he then starts to push something sharp up her right trouser leg and asks if she could feel it. And she said, yeah, it's really sharp and it's really hurting. And he said, good, it's supposed to. These are electrodes. And if you move about in that box, they'll electrocute you and they'll kill you instantly. So he is evil, like, really sadistic, getting off on her being scared, basically.
Right, and he's got too much time on his hands. He's made a coffin. He's figured out how to electrocute someone if they move.
I think that's bullshit though. I think he just makes up like
Yeah, just to scare her.
just because she's blindfolded still
Right.
at this point. So I think he's just a big old bullshitter as well. But regardless of that, that would still really scare you. Sam's had gotten Stephanie to record more tapes telling her family and colleagues that she was okay, but that they must pay the money. And he also sent along some ransom notes as well. As police tried to decipher the ransom note that came with the tape, they called for an immediate media blackout because they couldn't risk agitating the kidnapper. That would risk her life. And then another concern were some similarities to a crime in West Yorkshire that officers were currently investigating. So on the 9th of July 1991, 18-year-old Julie Dart went missing from a local red light district in Leeds. The following day, Dart's kidnapper, who they believed could be Michael Sams, made her write a letter to her boyfriend demanding a ransom of £140,000 or the hostage would never be seen again. She was also made to write other notes. And then 9 days later, the police found her body dumped in a field in eastern Lincolnshire. But that was such a huge amount of money that she was a sex worker, and if she had a boyfriend that had £140,000, do you think she would be doing sex work? So it's just a really that scares the police because they think he doesn't even want the money. He just wants to fuck us around and then kill someone.
Yeah.
So the phraseology in the ransom letters were very similar in tone and had the same words misspelt as in Stephanie's. So police were convinced that they had the same perpetrator, and Michael Sams had dyslexia. So
Okay.
that's one of the things that gave him away, basically. So Stephanie's in the bin, too scared to move all night. She was going into hypothermia and her arms had gone completely numb. She wanted to move, but she thought the boulders might fall on her head, but then eventually thought, I don't care if they kill me. I don't want to be here for him in the morning. So she'd kind of given up at this point.
Or not, if she just didn't give a shit and
Yeah.
was like, I'm gonna move and see what happens.
I mean, that you're basically buried alive. Well, I can't think of many people that that's not their worst nightmare. It's awful. So he came to get her out, and she said, I honestly think he was really shocked at how close to death I probably looked and how pale I was. And he had to half carry me to a chair and sit me on it and give me a cup of tea. Always making a fucking cup of tea. That's how you know he's
What?
English.
That's so British.
It's so British. He's like, you feel a bit peaky? Have a cup of tea. Let me fucking go. Anyway, then he said, you can't move your arms at all, can you? And she said, no, I was frozen in that box last night. And then he snatched the tea away from her and she got really scared and was like, shit, he's gonna like hit me or something. But then he started rubbing her arms to like warm them up. So
What a weirdo.
so he goes from like really psychotic to really caring in like which is scarier than
Yes.
someone being horrible all the time.
Right, because you don't know what to expect.
Yeah, exactly. Um I've had boyfriends like that.
Yeah, me too.
um she said also that she said, I said something that made him laugh. And he said, oh, well, I'm going to have to get rid of that now, aren't I? And she said, get rid of what? And he said, the thing I was going to put your body in. And she reached out to him saying, you're not going to kill me now, are you? But I couldn't really breathe or talk because I was in so much fear that I was crying. So the blindfold was soaking wet and I was reaching out for him like a child would for a parent.
Oh.
So he's got her in like a real fucking weird hostage situation. Like, loving it. So Stephanie's now been gone for 7 days and she isn't sure if she's going to be released.
So how long was she in that like makeshift coffin for?
He
A
would
few days?
he would put her in it and then take her out of it when he wanted to talk to her. So
Oh.
apparently in this documentary, apparently he would like have lunch, and whenever he had lunch, he would like his wife bought him lunch to the shop, and then he would like get her out of her box and like get hit and sit down with her and like talk to her like a doll. Like she's just a toy basically to him. So yeah, she's been gone for 7 days and isn't sure if she'll be released. Her kidnapper returns and he bought in another mattress. So one was for her to sleep on and one was for him, and he'd left her snacks and stuff. So she basically put these snacks down the middle of the bed as a barrier so that he wouldn't touch her. And then later on that evening, he said to Stephanie, If I was to ask you to do what happened on the first night, what would you say? Referring to the rape. And Stephanie replied, I'd ask you not to ask that of me because I don't want to. And he just replied, I just thought I'd ask, and fell asleep.
So he's sleeping out there now.
Yeah. What the fuck is his wife doing?
Yeah.
Oh, come on, woman. This is why you nose around.
Yeah.
I'm
Be
not,
nosy.
I'm not saying you need to know what your husband is up to 99% of the time, but you need to know what your husband's up to 99% of the time.
If he's sleeping in the shed, maybe go check it out.
Yeah, what's up? You got a fucking all-night project? Like, those Black & Decker tools, like, aren't going to sell themselves?
No.
Yeah, or maybe he just, like, started an argument with her for no reason. And
I
was
would
like,
believe that too.
I'm sleeping in the shed. Like,
If he's one of those guys who snaps and changes is nice 1 second and then
yeah,
is like, well, I don't care what you think, and then walks
storms
out to a
off.
shed.
You're just like, fuck you, sleep in the shed. So,
I would believe that.
yeah. She can hear him chatting and laughing to people as she is out the back of his repair shop, just yards away. And he opens up every day to regular customers. And his wife even drops by with his lunch, as I said before. And she thinks about screaming, but then she wonders, what if they don't hear me, but he does? So because like obviously he'll be listening out, but no, he'll just be like, I can't remember what that bit is in Friends where someone just goes, ah, like pretends to scream or something. And the dog is like howling in the apartment, and they say like, I haven't got a dog. I'm like, that's just me yawning, like, yeah. Anyway, she's like, I'm too scared to risk it because I don't think he can explain it away. But
Yeah, I always think that, like, if you think about being in that situation and they tell you not to scream,
or I'll kill you.
yeah, and then they leave, like they go out and you're like, well, he's not here, so I could scream and he can't stop me, but
You don't know who else is there.
right, and you know that he's listening out for your scream.
Yeah, and
So
it's also like the Golden State Killer.
yes, exactly. That's what I was thinking of.
He would do that. He would pretend that he had left, and then as soon as they got up again, or like as soon as
Yeah.
they got off the bed or whatever, he would like be like, I'm still here.
Yeah.
How fucking scary.
Yeah.
So yeah. According to ransom notes and instructions, Stephanie's employer Kevin, I don't like again, this is really above Kevin's pay grade. They've really given him the shitty end of the stick. According to notes and the instructions, so this is what Michael Sams has said has to happen. I'm assuming this is why Kevin has to do it. Okay. Otherwise, I'd be fucking like, no. Kevin,
I'm not answering the phone anymore. I don't want to answer this guy's call.
from now on, I don't answer the phone. Like, I'll take out the bins. Anyway, he has responsibility for meeting the kidnapper's demands and giving him the money. Sams leads Kevin and the police to go to the kiosk inside the entrance of a railway station, and he tells them that they'll receive a call on a payphone. Payphones are getting a lot of airtime right now. He loves a payphone. I don't know how much payphone is in America, but here it's like used to be 10p and then it went up to 20p, and then they just sort of stopped being used.
Yeah, I think here it was like a quarter, so like 25 cents.
Never is a dime 10p?
Yeah, 10 cents.
Yeah. No.
I feel like a dime is too cheap.
Pricey phone call. So he goes to the kiosk inside of the entrance of a railway station and he gets a phone call. This is a massive, like, wild goose chase, basically. When he gets there, he then receives a message to go to another telephone box, which is in a completely different area, like the Sheffield area. So Leeds, Sheffield, Yorkshire, they're all up north, but they're fucking, like, not that close to each other.
Is Kevin getting paid for this?
I don't know, but I want to be on the payroll.
Is this on company time?
Doesn't look like it. I can't. Do you know what? I really want to try and find a picture of Kevin because he is in the documentary, but I can't remember what he looks like.
Oh.
He just looks like a bloke, I think.
Yeah.
He just looks like a man that got really dragged into something. So he follows his instructions, and the more he follows, it's like a fucking scavenger hunt. He follows them deeper into the countryside because the kidnapper wants to shake the police, because he'll say to him, I'm going to call this phone box in like 20 minutes or 40 minutes or whatever.
Yeah.
And that's exactly how long it takes to get from there to there. So Kevin doesn't have time to say, call the police and say, this is where I'm going, this is what I'm doing. So they're just kind of following him. So I think basically the kidnapper wants to shake the police off. So that's why he's doing it in this really weird, mazy way. So
he's not watching what's going on. He's just kind of
calling.
waiting for calls and calling. Yeah.
Yeah. But he has a plan. He's planned it all out, basically. So the evening starts to become foggy, and then Kevin gets instructions which are to go down to some land nearby, and when he gets to the entrance of a lane, fucking the effort, he'll see a sign which directs him which way to go. It's like you'll also see a leprechaun playing a flute. It's just fucking ridiculous. Then,
I don't know why, but it reminds me of when you go to a wedding that's in a field.
yeah,
We went to one last year, I think, and it was like, turn left down this dirt road, and then don't go into the first gate, but then when you get to a wooden fence, then go past that and go into that entrance, and then look out for white flowers.
Can't you just put up signs? Can't you just hire some teenager, give them a tenner, stand there for a day and usher people?
Right.
Like they do at festivals. Yeah. Do these people listen to the podcast? Because I think their wedding sounds like a pain in the dick. I don't know you.
I'm exaggerating. It wasn't that bad. But
don't backtrack now,
it does
Rachel.
remind me of that.
Don't backtrack now. Anyway, yeah, so he gets to the entrance of a lane. You're going to cut that bit out, aren't you?
I'm not. I won't.
Okay. He gets to the entrance of a lane and he sees a sign which directs him which way to go. At this point, Kevin has no clue where he is. He's alone with £175,000 in a bag down an alley on a foggy night. I would be shitting myself. But I mean, either way, even if the bloke came at me, I'd just chuck the money at him and run because all he wants is the money. So there's a traffic cone in the middle of the lane where Sam, and this is all in the instructions. So Sam's has left another bag for Kevin to put the money in. So Kevin takes the £175,000 and puts it in the other bag. But it's really dark. So what he doesn't know is that there's a 60-foot drop on one side of the wall. And as soon as Kevin is out of earshot, Sam's, who is hiding below the wall, has attached the bag to a tray that's on wheels, and he pulls it towards him with a fishing line he's attached to it.
Listen, this guy has got too much time on his hands. What is he doing? He sleeps in the shed. He's making all these contraptions.
It sounds like
Seriously.
my dad, which really worries me. My dad has like a basement that he has a 3D printer in and stuff, and I'm just like, I'm so worried about you. Really hope he hasn't killed anyone. So
I'm sure he hasn't.
please, Dad, I can't deal with it. I can't deal right now. So Stephanie realizes that her kidnapper has returned when she hears a noise. So she shouts out, "Is that you? Do you have the money? Please let me out." So he's a couple of hours later than he said he would be. I don't know how the fuck she knows what the time is, but anyway, she might be counting. I don't know. But she said she just knows that he's not back when he said he would be. So she shits herself that he's just going to leave her there, take the money, and leave her to die in a shed. He opened the bin and got her to stand up, and she was so weak that she just collapses into his arms. And he said, "I've decided that I'm going to take you home, but because I don't want anything bad to happen to you, here's a knife. I'm going to take you to a phone box and leave you there so you can call the police." If you could see Rachel's face right now, people can see your face. You're just like that. Have you ever seen that meme of that like tiny little, I don't know if it's like a monkey, but it's like white and it's like on a court. Do you know what I mean? You know what I mean, don't you?
Yeah, you can use that meme.
I'll put it on the social media, but like I'm gonna say like this is Rachel's face nearly every episode. It's just that white monkey being like, what?
He gave her a knife.
Yeah.
and said,
I'm going to drop you off
I
in a
don't
phone
want
box.
anything to happen to you. Like somebody else is going to do something to her?
He's fucking deluded. I would, as soon as he gave me that knife, I'd fucking stick it in his neck. Like,
Exactly.
so he said, I'm going to take you to a phone box because he fucking loves them and leave you there. Like, what has he got fucking shares in phone boxes? Like,
Yeah, how does he know where all the phone boxes are, too?
it's so weird.
I don't know where a phone box. Even when they were in use, I didn't know where all the phone boxes were.
You're like, oh, a phone box.
Yeah.
Yeah, they weren't everywhere. Yeah, just for kids that are listening, people who've never had to use a phone box. Like, they did work once.
Yeah. I have used them in my lifetime.
Yeah, of course I have. And there was a thing that went round, and it was like, if you spell out the word reverse,
Hmm.
Reverse, and then put in the number that you wanted to call, they
Yeah.
did a reverse charge, and then your parents had to pay for the call.
Who was telling me where they would do something like that, but it was like you get this automated voice thing and it says, so and so wants to do a collect call. Normally
Rachel.
you would say, like, Rachel, but they would be like, pick me up at 5.
No need to talk.
That would be the message, so their parents would know, like, pick them up at 5.
That's so funny. To save you like 20 pence on the phone bill.
Yeah,
Oh,
exactly.
God, it's so funny. Yeah, also, you used to have landlines and it cost money and shit. Like, you couldn't just fucking call people from your phone and you're using the internet. Like, you actually had to pick up a phone that was attached to a wall, and then your mum would go, get off the phone. You've been on the phone for half an hour. You're going to cost me thousands of pounds.
Yeah, and you couldn't call in America. You had like long distance calls, and that cost more money. So
Oh,
if
God,
your
don't
friend
call.
lived 45 minutes away or in a different area code, then it would cost a little bit more money to call them. And
Mobiles cost more. Don't you dare
yeah,
call mobile phones on this phone. Don't you dare call your mate's mobile.
I remember when, when someone called you and you missed the call
Yeah,
and you didn't know the phone number, you didn't know who it was,
yeah,
you could dial *69, and there
yeah,
were all these commercials on TV like dial *69 to see who called you. And
yeah.
I didn't know that it cost money, so for like a week I just kept doing it at my parents'. They're like, Rachel, you can't dial *69. It's the most expensive thing.
We have that here, but it's 1471.
Okay.
You would call 1471. Or if you don't want someone to know you're calling them, it's like calling them from a private number. I think it was 141 you put above your
Right.
number, and then you called them, and then they didn't know who was calling. Then you couldn't star 69 and back. So it's like,
Yeah.
this is a whole game.
These were the days.
These were the days where you had to actually think about stalking people properly.
You had to get around things. You had to say, pick me up at 5.
If you want your parents to pick you up, you've got to fucking think on your feet. You can't just
Yeah.
you can't just text them.
Yeah, exactly.
Otherwise, you just live at your mate's house forever. Oh,
Now, like, you could track the phone.
yeah. Send
You'll be on social
location.
media. You know exactly what they're doing.
Yeah, yeah. My brothers would be gone for days. Where's Tom? I think he's at Bobby's. 8 days after she disappeared, Stephanie Slater arrives on her doorstep. Within 12 hours of her release, she was made to face a press conference, even though she was still drugged and highly distressed. 12 hours? Has she slept? Like,
Has she slept? Has she had a proper cup of tea?
I don't want murder tea. I want mum tea.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Also, I read a fact the other day. I know this is a little bit off subject, but your brain isn't fully developed till you're 26.
I can vouch for that.
She's 25 and her brain has to process all of this.
Yeah, like,
And she's made to go in front of cameras.
and she's drugged. But basically, police later acknowledged that this was an error of judgment. So, like,
No duh.
just like the understatement of the year. They're like, all right, we dropped the ball on that one. Um, so, but the reason they did it and the reason it was so urgent was because they were trying to find her kidnapper because he killed before. They suspected he killed before with Julie Dart, and they suspected that he's going to kill again. So they're really worried, and he's really dangerous, and they just want the information out there. But like, they could have got info from her and then just told the public themselves. Why does she have to tell them? She doesn't.
When she was with him,
Yeah.
she did see him. She wasn't
Yeah.
blindfolded the whole time.
Yeah, because she met him right at the beginning. Well, yeah, because she met him right at the beginning when he
Right, of course.
when he looked around the house, and then he took the blindfold off her at the end. And also, I don't know if he'd take the blindfold off her when he had lunch with her, but she knows what he looks like, basically. And in the documentary it said that she was like, in the car, she was like trying to count in time, like how far they were going, and like where she was going, and if she could hear anything, like like a railway and stuff. Like, she was really trying to figure out ways to remember where she was going, which is quite cool, I think.
Yeah, good job. I would just be freaking out,
Well,
I think.
I would just soil myself and then try and think of a better plan. So, with information from Stephanie, like where she thought she was, and from witnesses, there are people that saw him waiting for her, like outside the house.
Okay.
So they got an artist's impression of him, and all these pieces are put together 3 weeks after Stephanie's abduction. Police appeal for her kidnapper on BBC's Crime Watch, the show that I always bang on about.
Yay!
Yeah.
Should we add that to the bingo? Maybe that would be the
Yes!
British side of the bingo.
Is there not, like, do they not do Crime Watch? They do Crime Watch in America, right?
Yeah, but it's not like in England where it's like this is on every Friday night and
There's
most
too much
people
going on.
watch it.
There's too many crimes. I get what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah.
But you've got that amazing app, haven't you? That like tells you what's going on around your.
Citizen. I love it.
Do they have it in all the states?
No, they don't. They don't have it, but I think that they're trying to get it in every state.
Well, lucky California.
Yeah.
But you sent me that amazing one that was like, somebody thinks that there's a giant possum in their van, but it turned out to be a pig, or the other way around. I can't remember.
Yeah.
What way round?
That literally happened down the street. And someone wrote an article about it. I'm going to find it because we have to post it.
Oh, fuck yeah. And so wait, was it a possum or was it a pig?
It was a possum, I believe.
Very aggressive.
Yeah, and possums are everywhere here in LA.
And I've got this romantic view, like I'd make friends with one, and I'd be like Snow White, and you're like, no, it'll chew your fucking face off.
And they're so scary looking.
Are they?
Talissa. They
like
are. They look like
Satan's
a
minion.
white devil.
A Quince Orcha.
And they do this thing when you scare them, then they're one of the animals that kind of freeze.
Yeah.
So that they think when they don't move, then an animal will just pass them. So there was one time where we were at Kevin's house and
I've been there.
Yeah. He's got a balcony where there's like a power line across it.
Yeah.
We're sitting out on the balcony and this possum just starts crossing the power line and I don't think it noticed us. And then we were making noise and then it just looked at us straight across from us and just stared at us.
You're trying
for
to make
about
me like
5 minutes.
You're trying to make me like it less, and you're just making me like them more.
No.
I'm #Team Possum.
No.
Fuck me, we need to get on with the story. Right.
Yes. Okay.
Okay, so he's on Crime Watch. So what they do is they show the photo fit, and they also play a few minutes of the tapes that he'd sent, because his voice is on tape. So his first wife, Susan Oak, and one of their sons were responsible for his arrest. So Mrs. Oak, who divorced Sam 15 years ago, contacted the police after hearing his taped voice and seeing an artist's impression of him on BBC Television's Crime Watch programme. And he was arrested the following day.
Were they like, that sounds like Dad on a payphone?
Yeah, I mean, he can't have been that nice. So I think it's his eldest son and his first wife, who obviously fucking hates him, was like, oh, that he is going down. I'm sure, like, if my mum could pin a crime on my dad, she would. Like, she fucking hates him. I laugh because I have to. He was arrested the following day. And police say that his third wife, Tina, had also seen the artist's impression on television and had remarked on its similarity to him. So both of his ex-wives were like, I know who that is.
I know that asshole.
Yeah, I fucking see that face in my dreams, like nightmares. The police raided Sam's home, and this should be on the bingo as well, which turns out to be a shrine to his hobby, train spotting. Yep, his model railway occupies one room, and the house is filled with books and photographs of trains and engine nameplates. So I was going through the story trying to cut stuff out because I was like, last week we fucking went on and on and on, and I was like, I'm not cutting that out. I need that in there. Like, I don't want to discriminate, and I'm sure there are loads of lovely train spotters out there, but it is a bit fucking weird.
If anyone who's listening likes to do that, please write to us and explain.
Don't get them in contact with us. You can write to Rachel, leave me alone.
Is there like a, what do you call it, like a crossover of people who look at trains and people who listen to true crime? Never mix.
I don't think the twain should ever meet. Or will ever. You don't know, they might. We'll see. We will see. So he was arrested, and forensic evidence was gathered that proved his responsibility for Julie Dart's murder. So the person that they thought he murdered, he definitely did murder.
Okay.
Sam's need to record his detailed plans also betrayed him through deleted files on his computer. Like BTK, he's obviously a fucking idiot, and he thinks that once they're deleted, he could never get them back.
What were on his computer? Like pictures or writings?
It's writings. So they contained fragments of complicated ransom trails, all involving railway stations or disused railway lines. So
he knows where all the railways are and all the phone boxes.
I think there are phone boxes outside train stations, so you can call for a taxi or call for someone to pick you up. So I think that's probably what's happened. I think that's why. It's just like a happy coincidence, basically. And if you remember, the start of the trail of the leaving the money started at a train station. So he was convicted in July 1993 and sentenced to life imprisonment for the murder of Julie Dart and the abduction of Stephanie. And upon being positively identified by Stephanie, Sams admitted the kidnapping, but he denied the murder charge, and he denied raping Stephanie as well.
I feel like that's easily provable.
Yep, definitely. He confessed to the murder in prison 3 days after, and then he was found guilty. Out of the £175,000 ransom that was paid for the release of Stephanie, police located £150,000 of it buried in a field by using a ground-penetrating radar, and then the remaining £25,000 were never recovered.
Wow.
So he got rid of 25 grand in 4 weeks. He must have bought shitloads of trains. He must have bought 25 grand's worth of trains.
And maybe a couple more mattresses for his shed.
Couple more bins. After Sams was convicted and imprisoned, this is, like when someone goes to prison and they just continue to be a piece of shit.
Yes.
So this is one of those guys. So after Sams was convicted and imprisoned, he continued to commit offences, attacking a female probation officer. Oh, you're hard. He also became notorious for his attempts to sue the prison. Initially, successfully, he received 4 grand because they lost his artificial leg. I mean, how the fuck that happened, I don't know.
If I were one of those guys that worked there, maybe like, this guy sucks. Like, what can we do?
It's like The Sopranos, steal a leg.
Yeah.
Have you seen that Sopranos where they steal, where Janice steals? I'm giving the story away for Sopranos, but it's fucking great. You should watch it if you haven't. Yeah, but stealing someone's artificial leg is very irritating to them, I assume. But like, the thing is, I don't know how much an artificial leg costs. Maybe
they're pretty expensive.
Yeah, I mean, maybe the 4 grand just buys him a new leg.
Probably.
Which the NHS or the prison would have to do anyway. Like, not that I'm defending him, but I just think that the papers probably made it sound like he got 4 grand, but he did have to buy a new leg. So, and he also tried to sue the prison because his bed was too hard.
What?
I know, is fucking the worst.
This guy sounds like when you work with someone and it's like every week there's something for them to complain about.
He's so white. He's so white, this guy. He's a middle-aged white man. Yeah.
Entitled.
Yeah. So he got 8 years, by the way, put on top of his sentence for trying to stab the female probation officer.
Good.
It was a metal spike that he'd like made himself, like a shank.
What an idiot.
Oh, well, he's still whittling away, isn't he, in prison? Like he's probably got his own little workshop in there. Further complaint that he was unfairly held in solitary confinement, leading to a loss of his earnings because the works of art that he had painted in prison had gone missing. So he tried to sue the prison for keeping him in solitary confinement. And then when he came out of solitary confinement, his works of art, in quotation marks, had gone missing.
Wah, wah, wah.
What? I mean, who?
What, were they just like watercolor?
Yeah, I think they're just painting. It's painting.
Shitty little watercolors.
They're fucking shit, I'll promise you that. But, like, I haven't seen them, but I might Google it because I kind of want to see. But what lawyer is going, yeah, all right, I'll defend you on this? Like,
Yeah. You need defense for this.
yeah, like, I don't understand how the fuck do you even try and sue somebody for that in prison? You probably
I wonder if in prison, if you're like, I need a lawyer,
for what?
you're just given a lawyer for anything.
Yeah, I mean, British prisons are a lot nicer, I think, than English ones because we have a European
Than
Bill
American
of Rights.
ones?
Yeah, because we have a European Bill of Rights that bans like cruel and unusual punishment. So there's loads of shit that you can't do to a prisoner in Britain.
And they probably get around things all the time, like, oh, this is cruel. You can't hide my watercolors, or you can't hide my fake leg.
Yeah, again, which is what people like pieces of shit who are like, I want Brexit. Like that's one of the reasons because they're like, bring back hanging. Like they think that if we get out of the European Union, they'll get the death penalty back. Like paedophiles gonna have their dicks cut off. Like they think all this stuff's gonna happen. It's like, no, it's not.
That makes sense.
You can't go in reverse.
Right.
I knew I'd mentioned Brexit at one point. This bit is just about Stephanie. So after her release, she denied that she'd been raped. She later said that this was to spare her mother, who had a heart condition, from unnecessary further anguish.
Aww.
And obviously, Michael Sams had denied raping her, asserting, I cannot allow this to go unchallenged. He made the why have I put in a word I can't read? He made the unsubstantiated claim that they had a consensual affair. Sams attempted to sue Stephanie for libel and lost the case.
Of course.
So
what? You guys had a consensual affair when you handcuffed her and
put her in a bin.
Yeah. That sounds consensual.
And then said, I want money for you to have her back. Like, he's deluded. But anyway.
Yeah.
So he remains in prison and he served 28 years of his life sentence. There's no recommended minimum term that was reported at his trial. He's now aged 79. He's among the oldest and long-serving life sentence prisoners in England and Wales.
Wow.
Following her release, Stephanie felt unable to return to work as an estate agent. I don't blame you.
Yeah. Stay home for a while. It's okay. We understand.
Take a break. Have like a fucking yoga retreat or something.
Yeah.
And she moved to the Isle of Wight, which is basically a lovely place to go, in 1993. She subsequently worked with the police forces to advise them on how to deal with kidnapped survivors, and she worked with the survivors themselves to help them recover from their ordeals.
That's awesome.
Yeah, she's really cool, and she's really confident on the documentary as well. She doesn't take it fucking lying down at all. Unfortunately, she died on the 31st of August 2017 from cancer, and she was only 50 years old.
Oh,
I know. So
I'm sure she made
unfair.
a huge impact in that amount of time. 25 years pretty much. She probably made a huge impact on people and probably still does.
Yeah, and she is really candid in all her interviews, and she initially she denied that he raped her, but as she said, it's because her mum was really, really ill, and apparently when her mum found out that she was kidnapped, her mum had a seizure. She was so upset.
Oh,
I know, it's fucking horrible. There's a lot of detail that I left out, but if you want to watch, Google Stephanie Slater and loads of stuff comes up on YouTube and she's in it and it's really good.
Yeah, we can share those too because we both have documentaries that were made for this our episode this week. I had the Grim Sleeper and you have yours.
Yeah, and I need to watch yours because he's not who I thought he was.
Yeah.
Unless I'm getting confused, I don't know. But yeah, definitely we'll put that up. So yeah, thank you for listening.
That's a really good story, and I'm glad that both of our survivors made an impact afterwards.
Oh my God, and like the ultimate survivor, Mary Vincent.
Yeah.
Like, oh my God, like
She's amazing.
Do you remember the My Favorite Murder with Mary Vincent? Like, it blew my fucking mind. Like,
I know, it's such a good episode. In fact, I'll probably listen to it again, because if you want to bring up why you should listen to that podcast, or if you want to bring up an episode for people who haven't listened to that podcast, listen to that one.
It's that one.
It's so good. I had no idea about it. Whoever is listening now, stop this one.
No.
Or finish it. Leave a rate and review, and then go listen to the My Favorite Murder episode.
With Mary Vincent.
Yes.
Yeah. Because I've retold that story to like my brother and my dad and stuff. I'm like, you have to hear this.
Yeah.
And you can't bore someone with a whole podcast they haven't asked to listen to. So
right.
I've just had to retell it badly. But like, yeah, fucking incredible. Best I Survived story ever. Okay, well, thank you for listening, everybody.
Thanks for listening. We'll talk to you next week. We don't know what we're going to do, but
that's as per usual. Okay, bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to Transatlantic Crime this week. If you liked what you heard, please rate, review, and subscribe.
And if you'd like to follow us on social media, you can find us on Twitter at TransatCrimePod, Instagram at Transatlantic Crime, and on Facebook with Transatlantic Crime Podcast.
Thanks, bye.